Today is Easter. It's also International Day of Trans Visibility and our Flower Communion, and I think this is a beautiful display. And the Chopics, both of them, the husband and wife team, they really were a team, were preaching liberal religion in a time when authoritarianism and eugenics, ideas promoting racial superiority, were prevalent. So they were bold pioneers of our faith, proclaiming diversity and respect for differences in a time when that wasn't popular. That sounds like our time today, doesn't it? The idea of religious expression is a thread that you will find woven through many of our stories, our Unitarian Universalist stories. And it remains a core part of our theology and practice. It is Easter, and Easter is a Christian celebration for millions. And if you are a theist, you may see this literally or symbolically as a day to remember the resurrection of Jesus Christ. You may see Easter as a day to remember, as we were taught in seminary, that God brings God's self into history to suffer with human beings in this man Jesus, and through that suffering, God has come to know human beings better. This story gives hope to millions, reminding us that suffering is not in vain. As Dr. King would say, unmerited suffering is redemptive. That Jesus' torture and death is an example of what so often happens to innocence, that it is sacrificed on the altar of hubris and for the sake of power and money. Jesus represents victory over these powers. His resuscitation to life for Christians means that love wins in the end. And I like that. I believe that love wins in the end, but for different reasons. I believe in it by my own intuition, by my examination of human evolution, and through watching the resilience in nature. Indeed, most of us who are religious liberals, we see this day as symbolic. It is not so much a story about suffering and death, agony and bloodletting, but rather from an earth-based perspective, Easter is about the change in the season, change for us. And like most of our Christian holidays and celebrations, Easter, or Eastra, is an old Anglo-Saxon pagan celebration for the goddess of spring. Eastra is that natural turn the earth takes every year when we shift from the dark, dead, cold of winter, when the trees are empty of their leaves and the sky is sullen, cloudy and gray. Slowly we turn to spring and rebirth. As December turns to January, and January to February, and February to March, we spring forth, and the buds begin to form again. Death gives way to life, just as the dark of night gives way to the warmth of the sun each morning. I was telling somebody after church, today is Sun Day. Monday is Moon Day. Didn't know that, did you? Sunday, Father, Son. Monday, Mother, Moon. The natural idea of death and resurrection built into the days of the week. So this time of year comes to symbolize new hope, new transformation, resurrection of that which has been dead. New life begins again. And so the eggs and the bunny and the bright fluorescent colors that you all are wearing so beautifully this morning. An ancient lesson from our hunter-gatherer and agrarian kin that life springs forth again. From out of nothing, something is born. And we see this in the story of Jesus. He suffers. He needs water on the cross, and he's given something like vinegar. He needs to quench his thirst as he is dying and can't get his breath. Like a flower that needs water. That flower needs water or it withers away. And eventually, if we don't give it water, it dies. But then, as Jesus was born again, like the radiant sun, just as when we watch a flower that is properly taken care of and given water, it will turn and face the sun and breathe life. This is what it means to me. And so the Christian or nature-based stories are the same. And the Italian poet from the 20th century, Diego Valeri, he understood this when he said, "You who have an eye for miracles, regard the bud now appearing on the bare branch of the fragile young tree. It is a mere dot, a nothing. But already it is a fruit. Already it is a flower. Already its own death and resurrection." And the American poet and Catholic priest John Bannister Tabb also understood this deep symbolism from this time of year. He said, "Out of the dusk, a shadow, then a spark. Out of the cloud, a silence, then a lark. Out of the heart, a rapture, then a pain. Out of the dead, cold ashes, life again." And so our flower communion is our way of coming together to celebrate life, to celebrate our joys, to celebrate our diversity and our differences, and our respect for life, which gives and takes away. And this comes to mean for me that we will have, as individuals, as people, many deaths and resurrections in our lives, but that hope comes again in spite of the hardships and the hard lessons and the losses and the pains. Now, you may or may not believe in Easter, I don't know. You may not care about the pagan origins of Easter. The facts can always be debated or denied, but we who are Unitarian Universalists know that honoring change and the sacred cycles of life are important. And we know this even from our 6 sources, and there are 2 in particular. Source 1 says direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. And source number 6, spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature. Amen. Amen. And that is why we're celebrating flower communion, and we are honoring spring. It is part of our tradition. As we honor this legacy of our forebears today, reflect on what this means to you, and then be on the lookout for all that is springing forth, the smells and the warmth, the giddiness. You know, people getting in relationships and stuff, it gets warm, people get kind of giddy. What is that? Okay, whatever you said. Be on the lookout for the birds and the buds and the new flowers on the bushes and trees Nature's representative of the great diversity in the world. Nature reminding us to be thankful and open to awe. Nature is generous in her annual reminder that death is not the end, that life comes again, that where that dead flower once was, a new flower springs forth from that very spot. We are alive and conscious beings. That's what nature reminds us of yet again, to be mindful of our own transformations, our own rebirths, our many hopes, our own deaths and resurrections. Amen.